Apartment 3C. This is an interior hidden in Vice City, which when you go inside you can find a rather sinister Easter egg. You'll find bloodstains all over the bathroom and a chainsaw. Bloody handprints are all over the walls as well. There's also some illegal substances found on the chair in the bedroom. This is actually an Easter egg for the movie Scarface, where a very similar scene occurs, and we also see a chair with the very same packages found in the game. Somewhere near the golf course, there's actually a body hidden underwater with concrete shoes. This can be found on the middle of a rock structure in the middle of the water. Some have speculated this may be Diaz, but the body is actually present from the very beginning of the game. There are various sharks that can be found in the waters of Vice City. In fact, the travel guide found on the PlayStation 2 game actually states that you shouldn't go into the water because there's sharks everywhere. There's something quite odd about these sharks though, which is that they are absolutely huge. Much larger than you'd expect for any normal sharks. In the northern section of the map, deep in the ocean, you can find a hidden submarine. Nobody really knows what the purpose of this is, and there's no flags that can be found that indicate what army it might belong to. At the top of the downtown Vice City news building, you can actually jump through a window that has no collision, and on the other side you'll find that Rockstar Games have hidden us a surprise, which has Happy Easter written on the front, taking the word Easter egg quite literally. There's a dark truth about Tommy Vercetti's ice cream business that many players might not have realised. Playing this game as a child might have led you to hilariously actually believe you were driving around supplying ice cream to pedestrians on a hot day, but this couldn't be any further from the truth. The entire mission is actually Tommy distributing his drugs from an ice cream truck. Some players believe that Tommy actually laced ice cream and is selling it to people to get them hooked on his product, which makes this mission so much darker and more sinister now you realise the truth. Located near the pizza shop in Little Haiti, you can find a skeleton deep inside of a grave. There's not really much context as to what's going on here, but something interesting is that it's missing one of its arms. At the movie studios on Prawn Island, if you head into Stage B, you can find a moon landing hoax Easter egg. Of course, this is a reference to the widely popular conspiracy theory that the moon landings weren't real. Rockstar Games are always poking fun at UFOs, space and conspiracy theories, so there's no surprise that in close proximity to this you can also find a UFO prop used on movies. In all the 3D GTA games, there's an Easter egg where if you shoot the moon with a sniper rifle, you can actually change the size of it. I'm demonstrating this with the footage on screen. It's a pretty cool Easter egg, but doesn't have any effect on anything else in the game besides the size of the moon in the sky. You can find these really weird newspapers flying around on the floor that claims that a zombie Elvis has been found, again poking fun at more conspiracy theories that Elvis is actually still alive. There's a store on the second island titled Beds, Beds, Beds. We've all passed this location probably hundreds of times, but never thought to actually look in the windows. There's actually an interior with just some mattresses laying on the floor. I didn't even know about the existence of this until making this video. You'll see many accounts of Rockstar Games hiding their logos in their video games, and Vice City is definitely a good example of that. From billboards to beach towels to even the guy who works at ammunition. If you look closely at his jacket, you'll see exactly what we mean. Escobar International. This is named after the infamous drug kingpin Pablo Escobar, who was the most prominent figure in the drug trade, which caused absolute chaos through the entirety of Florida and Southern America. Vice City has a lot of focus on drugs, so it's a pretty clever Easter egg. Carnicero Romero is a business in Vice City connected to many in-game myths. First of all, in Little Haiti, there's a small plaza where you can see the shop window of the Carnicero Romero butcher shop. On one of the packages, you can read the words human organs. You can also see their vans driving around the map, and upon destroying the rear doors, you can see some rather strange things hanging there. You can even see a human brain and an arm available for sale. The Romero business family is behind a lot of the cannibalism that happens around Vice City and in the GTA universe. Donald Love, a very important character based off Donald Trump in GTA 3, is one of these characters who's heavily involved in this. In Grand Theft Auto 2, there's an insanely grim mission where the player is hired to kidnap innocent civilians at bus stops and then take them to a food processing plant so they can be turned into hot dogs. Now, what connection does this have to this myth? Well, RSL Bowes, the same company who are in partnership with this butchery, is the location of the warehouse where you took these civilians. While standing at the lighthouse, sometimes when looking out to the ocean, you can see some mysterious ghost ships. Now, the reason they're titled the ghost ships is because they don't exist in the actual game world like other boats you see sailing on the ocean. There's also sunken ships that can be found around the oceans of Vice City, leading players to believe that what we're seeing is the spirits or the ghost remains of these ships. Once you meet Diaz in the main storyline of Vice City, one of the missions has Tommy with Lance getting into a helicopter and flying to Prawn Island. On the way to Prawn Island, if you were to switch your camera and look behind the helicopter just as you pass underneath the bridge, you will notice that a pedestrian mysteriously jumps off into the water, unaliving themselves, which is of course a very unusual and dark Easter egg. This isn't the first time we've seen pedestrians do this in a GTA game. There's a very famous glitch in GTA Vice City, which is called the Super Cop or Ultra Cop. Essentially what happens is the player may sometimes get into a vehicle to evade the law, and somehow a police officer will teleport at light speed all the way to the driver's side door and arrest you on the spot. There's been many instances of this happening to streamers who speedrun the game, and I'll leave you with some of their reactions.
Whoa! Ultra Cop! I beat Ultra Cop! I f***ing beat Ultra Cop! Holy shit, guys!
Oh, we've got disco lights again. Oh, come on.
This is an extremely rare occurrence. I've only ever witnessed this once, and I've been playing this game for over 20 years. There's a billboard near Little Haiti that says "Welcome to Hell." This isn't the first time the Rockstar games have hidden this message in their games, but the fact that this billboard is in close proximity to the organ harvesting myth that we spoke about just a few minutes ago makes this even more unusual. The Degenatron video game is the center of one of the most popular myths in the game. The Degenatron is Rockstar's parody of an old school arcade video game system in the universe of Grand Theft Auto. Think about Atari or Sega Mega Drive. Now, what's so significant about this is that later on in the series in GTA San Andreas, we hear a caller ring into the West Coast radio talk show where they explain that the Degenatron video game from the 80s, when Vice City takes place, was used as a mind control system in order to make the youth less capable of firing weapons.
I think everyone out there will agree that the Russians are in charge now. Foreigners are behind that Exorbio handheld gaming device to decrease our productivity and make so our kids can't fire machine guns.
I hear what you're saying about video games. People are dying every day of malaria, and it's all because of the messages planted in our minds from that Degenatron in the 80s. Line 18. Hello.
Diaz's ghost is relatively self-explanatory. After Tommy Vercetti takes over the mansion and kills Diaz, many players have stated that while roaming around the mansion, they've witnessed a ghost of Diaz. There's a few images online and videos, but the majority of them are of course modifications to the game. But walking around that mansion on your own at night does indeed feel very eerie. The beta skin for Tommy Vercetti was originally extremely different to what we got in the final game. As you can see, this beta version of Tommy has a darker t-shirt and also a very unusual looking face compared to what we're used to in the final game. This is just one of the many beta things that you can find in the game, like the beta map. The beta map can actually be found when you go to Sunshine Autos and head down to the garages. You will see a map on the wall that you can see is a beta version of Vice City. The stadium is missing, the beach is a lot fatter, the military base just north of the airport is non-existent, and instead it's actually replaced by another runway. Now, what's really interesting about this is that there's something called the Ghost Tower in Vice City, where you can actually see the ghostly remains of this tower from across the map. But as you get closer, it slowly disappears. Speaking of the beta map, the Gator Keys was a location that was supposed to be added to Vice City, but got cut before the game was released. You can hear several audio lines that were cut from the game as well, and there's also coding to suggest that this Gator Keys would have likely been very similar to the Florida Keys. An Avery Carrington mission was supposed to take place here, so it makes you wonder what this mission would have actually been like. There is a haunted mansion on Prawn Island. Now this mansion, if you've played Vice City Stories, will be very familiar to you, because of course these mansions belonged to the Mendez brothers. However, what's really interesting is that this place is extremely eerie now it's abandoned in Vice City, and many players have reported that they've seen ghosts, heard screams, and even get attacked and lose their HP when they're standing in the vicinity. And to add even more fuel to the fire, there's an outbuilding outside of the mansion that does indeed disappear if you stand further away from it. Vice City has an extremely unusual focus on voodoo and black magic. Remember the Welcome to Hell sign in Little Haiti? Well, then there's also the missions for Auntie Paulette. Her symbol on the map is represented by a voodoo doll symbol, which is already rather strange. But to add more fuel to the fire for this myth, Auntie Paulette feeds Tommy Vercetti some kind of soup or tea, which then pretty much hypnotizes him, probably with something like hallucinogenics. But not only that, if you get inside her house, you can find really odd things like skulls and unusual prints on the wall, which have all been linked with dark magic and voodoo. What do you think about this one? We need to talk about someone called Dick Tanner. Now you may be wondering, who is this Dick Tanner character? Let's talk about the game series Driver. Driver is what lots of people would call a GTA clone, which is the terminology given to any video game from the early 2000s that took place in an open world and had crime. Dick Tanner is a member of a European gang that's planning to rob a bank in Vice City. His last name matches that of John Tanner, the protagonist of the Driver series, whose games are often called GTA clones. Well, in retaliation to this, Reflections Interactive and Atari decided to create the fictional character Timmy Vermicelli in Driver 3, which is of course a nod to Tommy Vercetti. They also put armbands around him to poke fun at the fact that Tommy Vercetti cannot swim. Did you know there's an alternative intro cutscene for Vice City? Have you ever wondered why is the audio kind of funny or surreal at the start of the game when Rosenberg is talking to Tommy Vercetti outside his office? Well, as it turns out, the audio lines have been cut and snipped quite significantly, and the original introduction to the game actually makes a little bit more sense. If you don't believe me, then you can watch this right here.
I poked my head out of the gutter for 1 freaking second and fate shovels shit in my face. Go get some sleep. I'll drop by your office tomorrow and we can start sorting this mess out.
You may now connect the dots and realise why this scene seemed like it was so choppy and didn't really make sense. There's also that mission for Diaz called Supply and Demand, where Tommy and Lance have to get into the speedboat and go and collect some drugs for him. And when you arrive in the speedboat, the screen fades to black and then instantly you are being chased by enemies shooting at you, while you have to then shoot back at them with an assault rifle while Lance gets the boat back to Diaz's mansion. But what you didn't know is that Rockstar Games cut out a really important cutscene that basically breaks this up nicely and explains why these guys are chasing after you.
That's the last of them. I'm gonna start up. I think we got some new friends.
Vic Vance's ghost. Well, Vic Vance is of course the protagonist of Vice City Stories. However, Vic Vance actually died. He died at the very beginning of Vice City. He's the character who is with Lance Vance at the start of the game, of course when this deal is ambushed and several people are shot dead. Unfortunately, Vic Vance is one of the people who dies. Now, if you head to the docks where this takes place, Some players say at 3 AM you can see the ghost of Vic Vance. However, Rockstar Games have never commented on the matter, and there seems to be no legitimacy to any of these claims, besides the fact that this is just a skin that can be found within the game's coding. There is a wide range of secret phone calls that you can hear that take place with Mercedes. It's unclear as to why these phone calls were cut from the final game, but I'm going to let you listen to these cut phone calls just so you can hear them for yourself.
Tommy, it's me.
Hi, Mercedes.
Tommy, I'm so bored. When are we going to have some fun?
What do you mean?
Well, I know you're busy fighting and killing and corrupting people, but I just want to have some fun, so don't forget about me. Okay? Tommy, I heard you killed Ricardo Diaz.
No. There was an unfortunate fire at his mansion. I think he might have burnt to death in his acrylic shirt.
Tommy, I'm so proud of you. I knew you were a real man. It was an awful trouser stain of a man. You make me so proud to be your friend. I know you're going to be busy trying to take over this town, but don't forget about me, you hear? Tommy, it's Mercedes. I'm lonely, really lonely, baby. Please come and visit me immediately. Okay, bye.
There's a myth in Vice City called Shadow Man that is actually a real thing. In 2016, the Shadow Man was discovered during a detailed video investigation on the topic. A homeless pedestrian was sighted acting unusually in Avery Tower's construction site. During numerous other investigations, the homeless pedestrian was found in the same place. The myth is named Shadow Man because the homeless pedestrian wears a torn black shirt, and at night his model may seem like a shadow. This led many players to link this strange character to a wide range of mysteries linked to the game, such as Apartment 3C, which we mentioned at the start of the video. In fact, this next one is even more unsettling. This is the Junkyard Demon, aka Leatherface. And I know what you're thinking. We've seen this time and time again in games like San Andreas, and these have absolutely no weight to them. However, if you head to the Junkyard in Vice City, you can find a wooden chair which has arm straps and leg straps. Essentially a chair used for, shall we say, interrogation purposes. This chair is also covered in blood. Lance Vance is famously taken here by Ricardo Diaz, and while this is probably why this chair exists in the first place, it's still extremely freaky. This is the site where many people have been taken, likely by Ricardo Diaz and people linked to him, where they then go missing forever. Who is Mr. Moffat? Mr. Moffat was scheduled to be a character in the series, who was dropped during the development of the game. Mr. Moffat and Tommy Vercetti know each other from their past, and Moffat has found himself on the run again from the police in Vice City. Moffat was scheduled to take place in a mission where Tommy Vercetti would help him escape from the cops that were after him. A fun fact about this character is that he shares the same last name as the mother of the Rockstar Games founders, Sam and Dan Houser. You can see here a script of how the mission was going to pan out, and as you can see here, this is heavily speculated to be what Mr. Moffat would have looked like. We don't know exactly why the character was cut from the final game, but I guess that will remain a mystery for the rest of time.